And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Angela Mulrooney. Angela, first of all, thanks for squeezing me in and spending some time with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. Angela is she's a speaker. She's an author. She's a thought leader around personal branding, which is really exciting because that's what we talk a lot about in when we create books for our clients, is starting with that brand strategy is what we call it. But it talks a lot about their personal brand and how you can use that brand to differentiate yourself in the market. And as you would say, turn your personal brand into a sales converting machine. So let's talk about that. Give us a snapshot, Angela, of who you are. How in the world did you make your way to doing what you do today?
Well, the story is quite convoluted, so we'll go very macroscopic, otherwise we'll be here for a while. I was originally a dentist, and my brand when I first came out of dental school was the shy little person who couldn't speak to adults, so I spoke to children and worked with children for the first 4.5 years of my career. And then I came across this practice where it was mostly adults, most of them were scared of the dentist. The previous owner was 78, I was 28, so there was a 5-decade discrepancy between the two of us. And I ended up taking this broken down practice that he had owned, bought it, turned it into this high-end, high-tech practice. And so that was my first big brand turnaround. And unfortunately, when I got the brand exactly where I wanted it, I had the perfect team, the perfect patients, I was doing the dentistry I loved, then I got injured and my career went up in smoke overnight.
Wow.
And I had to figure out really who I was going to be in the world without a drill in my hand, because I had wanted to be a dentist since I was 2 and I was 32 when that happened. Wow. So I went on this big soul searching experiment. For the next few years. I went back to dancing full-time professionally. I built a business coaching company for dentists because I was a dentist and I'd been through some really interesting experiences. So I figured, you know what, I can take that and help other people. So that was kind of my silver lining to losing my clinical career. And to get that company noticed, I took to LinkedIn, started talking about branding, niching, dentistry, and went from 200 to 12,000 industry followers in a year. And then suddenly people were like, how did you do that? Yeah. And I wasn't sure if what I'd done was replicatable. So a few of my friends, I was like, well, forgive me if I don't get it right, but I'm going to try it on your accounts and see what I can do. And I was able to achieve the same results for them. So that led to creating Unleashing Influence, which is the only company I own now. I've sold the other 2 off. And so what I do with that one now is take mostly people outside of dentistry. Everyone is like, oh, you're a dentist, you must work with dentists. And that is really not true. So what I really do is I take entrepreneurs, people with massive experience in their industry, C-suite executives, and they're usually at a pivot point when they come to me. And it's the decision of, do I stay on this path that, you know what, I'm not happy, I'm having to follow the rules of someone else, or do I pivot to this new path where I can take everything that I've learned, repackage it, repurpose it to have the schedule that I want, to live where in the world I want, to be able to follow my own rules, to be able to change the world with what I know. So I have the lovely opportunity of helping those people at that pivot point to gracefully make that pivot, package their talents in a way that is really understandable to the marketplace, and help launch them into the next part of their career.
Very cool. We got lots to talk about because the pivot point is really important. It's an inflection that happens to business owners at times, but also the C-suite executives or people who may not even be in that C-suite, but they've been in corporate for a long time, but they're ready to make that pivot. They don't know what to do. And too many times what I've seen is they have all the knowledge and they think that that's the ticket to ride. And it really isn't. You got to have the knowledge, but what you need is that brand. You need that identifying force that draws your audience to you, separate you. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do you help CEOs, business owners who are at that point? What are some of the questions you ask, or what are they struggling with that you help them make that turn?
So it usually starts with a discovery call where we figure it out for a good match. And then if they decide to hire me, then I work with them for a 4-hour straight meeting. We take little breaks, but what I do is kind of crack open their soul, take a look at what's going on, take a look at what their talents are, see how the world perceives them, and then show them that. so that they can step into who that person is that the world actually really admires. Because I work with these amazing people who are so talented, and at halfway through that 4-hour session, they're like, do you think I got anything to offer? Like,
Yeah.
give your head a shake. Of course we've got something to offer.
Yeah.
We need to take the right bits of it. And what their biggest struggling point is, they have so many different talents. And if you put all those talents out there, then you are confusing to the market. And people are like, are you actually any good at this one? Or maybe you're good at this one, maybe you're good at that one, or maybe you're not good at any of it. And so I help them to figure out, what you actually want to stand for in your marketplace. So I help them to declare that they are the whatever. So they really do claim their territory in the marketplace and go from there with creating content that supports that, being able to package their business and create those offerings that help to support what that claim to fame is that they've actually made.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because that claim to fame comes from their story, right? As we work with business owners and clients on creating their book, our first step is creating brand strategy. Some similar process is very interesting, but I'll tell my clients, I don't create your brand strategy for your book or I discover it from what's inside of you, right? And that's exactly what you just talked about. And it's so funny. Do you think I've got anything to offer? And how we see ourselves is completely different from how others see us. And it's having the courage to step into that spotlight per se, that space, and own it, because you have the goods, right?
For sure.
Wow. So once that aspect is created, do you help them come up with that, I am the whatever, that brand theme? And then I assume a lot of these people, they're moving into a new world, really. Whether even if they've been an entrepreneur, do you help them with steps 2 and 3 and 4, or do you?
Yes. So after I crack their soul open in those 4 hours, then I come back to them and I'm like, hey, here's what I found in your soul. And I show them, this is what you're going to be called. This is what your archetype is. This is how you represent in the world. Here's the keywords. Here's the core values that I see, which are usually completely different than the core values that they've ever developed for themselves. I write out their brand story so that they can use that in their about section on LinkedIn. They can use it for introductions on podcasts, from the stage. And that becomes the story that they memorize and start being able to regurgitate. And I write it the way that they would talk to me about it.
Right.
So it's not like they're trying to be Angela. They get to be themselves. And then from there, they go into my 90-day Mastermind Intensive, which teaches them, okay, how are we going to create content? Teach them how to be interesting on camera. So they use the space, they use their voice, so they use their physicality to be interesting. That carries on to the stage. That carries on to their content, their podcast, everything that they're trying to do. So we figure out, what is this brand? And then how are we going to make money using it? Because if they're at a pivot point, there is this fear that if I pivot to this, I'm not going to make it.
Yep.
I'm not going to be good enough. I have this 6-figure, 7-figure job that I'm leaving. I want to be able to replace that, but I don't want to be working that many hours. I don't want to be underneath those rules, but I also don't want to fall flat on my face publicly, especially if you're going on LinkedIn. You're on a platform full of smarty pants and you don't want to go and face plant in front of the world with what you're trying to do. So helping to be very, very intentional about what they're doing, how they're creating content, making sure that everything is aligned with that foundation that we built in that 4-hour session, so that everything makes sense, no matter where someone is seen, whether it's on a sales call, whether it's on LinkedIn, it's on a podcast, it's speaking from the stage, everything is congruent because they really do understand who they are. And as I said, they step into who they are, and now they can actually just live who they are, instead of being like, well, if I'm in this situation, I have to behave this way, or if I'm in that situation, I have to behave a different way. And then you have all these you have like this split personality going on that you have to keep track of and be like, what did I say in that situation? And that one, oh, shoot, I wasn't the same person. And people do it all the time. We're told to be ourselves. Most people are not themselves. Most people have filters that they put on depending on who their audience is.
That's hilarious. No, I love it. I'm laughing because that was me a few years ago, Angela, and I deal with it all the time. I tried to be, for the first few years of my business, who I thought you thought I should be, right? And I wouldn't do video because I didn't have the right setup in the studios and the lighting and the sound. And a few years ago, I finally got fed up and said, you know what, hooey on you. I'm going to be Michael. If you love Michael and like Michael, then let's do some business together. But if you don't, then good, go away, because we're not going to be a good fit anyway. And it has just transformed everything, because I just show up every day being me.
Oh, it so transforms everything. And I think it's because we have all these little boo-boos that we've been made fun of, especially as kids. You know, I have naturally crazy curly hair. So when people mention my afro, I'm like, ugh, don't like that. But now I wear my curly hair, and not today because it's really humid where I am today. But I allow myself to be myself. Yeah. I have clients who have accents from other countries, and they've built multi-million-dollar brands. They're pivoting to something else, and they're like, but my accent is going to hold me back. And I'm like, it didn't hold you back over there. Why do you think it's going to hold you back over here?
Yeah.
So we can use that as a boo-boo that we try and protect and don't show the world, or we can just go, you know what? Take me, love me, hate me. It's okay. And your day becomes so much more fun, as you've experienced, once you actually step into who you actually are and just be that day in and day out.
Well, it is. And at the same time, what happens is you stop trying to impress people. I mean, because I went to your website, right? Angela and I met, 10 minutes before this whole podcast. And I went to her website. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's a doctor. And look at all this, look at what she does. And the former Michael would have been like knocking knees and all. And the today Michael's like, hey, Angela, what's going on? And who cares, right? I want authenticity, transparency. And you know what? I think one of the things is there are some people out there who've done branding for the professional people, right? And they look really good and they speak really well. And everybody thinks that's what you have to be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, no, you don't. You can be yourself. Mm-hmm. And people will bond to you. And that's what you help people do. And I love how you just keep saying you help people step into. Because I think the biggest battle that I've seen with business owners as we've helped them create brands for their books is the mental battle.
Absolutely.
Right. Talk a little bit about that, because everybody struggles with what's going on between their ears. How do you help somebody get past that?
Well, first we identify the little gremlin who's talking to you, and then we flick that off your shoulder. But it's not easy because it comes back, right? Yeah. And usually it's coming just from our own self-doubt, or, someone told us, you're not good enough to do this. You shouldn't even try that. Right. And so then that replays, especially again, that precipice of change is the scariest point, because you have this path that but you also want to go over here and it's unknown. And so that's where all this stuff starts to come out. And what happens when we start to actually step into who we are, we get comfortable with who we are, and we start accepting that people are going to love us or they're going to hate us. And the people who love us, that's who we want to pay attention to. The people who hate us, they can go away. We don't want to serve them anyway. If we see them on our schedule, we're going to go, ugh, I do not have the time for Angela today. I don't have the patience, right? Yeah. So we need to get comfortable with polarizing our audience into love and hate. And when you do that and you start getting those wins, and you do have to get a few wins under your belt, typically as a professional, to really start getting comfortable with what you're doing, because that's what we're used to being measured by. Did we hit that accomplishment? Did we check that box? Do people like us? And yet we may like ourselves, but if we don't get a little bit of external validation, it can be hard. And so you have to commit. You got to give yourself 90 days in after that pivot point to gain that traction, because there's so many people out there spewing stuff, and they might last 90 days. They may have some ideas that sound original, but at the 90-day point, that's typically when they crack. Mm-hmm. And you start to go, oh, they don't have anything new to offer, or they don't get the engagement, so they get scared and then they disappear off the scene. So people don't really trust you until they've seen you go past that 90 days. And you may get some really fast wins out of the gate. I've had clients hit the multi-thousand views with their first piece of content. But you can't just leave it at that. You have to keep continuing on and sharing your knowledge with the world. And when you can actually have that resilience to carry on to the 90 days and beyond, that's when people start to trust you and go, oh, this person has something to say. Oh, they have new things that they're coming out with. And that's where that credibility starts to gain some traction for you.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. My lane is credibility marketing, right? When I help business owners really take that next moving their pivot point is helping them understand credibility marketing. And what you said is so important because so many people fail, as you say, after 90 days. And so many people fail because they forget to. Here's the phrase that people have told me: I don't want to give away the farm, Michael, because it's like, no, give the farm away. Talk about sharing content, bringing ideas on a consistent basis, because, well, I'm going to let you finish those thoughts and those sentences from your experience. What do you tell somebody who says, well, I can't tell everything?
If you tell everything in 30 to 60-second videos, people are going to have a lot of videos to go through to try and piece together everything that you know.
Yeah.
So most people aren't going to take the time. They're going to get hit with a piece of content and start to follow you and start to engage with what you're putting out there. And they're going to hit a point where they've tried what you're suggesting, and then they hit the point where they're like, this is too complex. Yep. Right? It's like they started the bathroom renovation, the video at Home Depot seemed really, really straightforward, and then now they're realizing, shit, I better stop, otherwise I'm gonna, like, destroy my house here. Yeah. So that's what happens when people are trying to do it themselves. But because they've been following your expertise, they're going to come back to you when they get stuck.
Right.
And you know what? You might be, well, you will be. If you're sharing your actual knowledge, you're going to be repeating the same things that they've heard through your content when they start working with you. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes we get scared that we need to have brand new stuff that we're saying to people all the time. If you create a program that works, you have fundamentals that are repeated over and over and over again to get people results. It's not a new thing every week and then they've got these 1,000 tools they don't know what to use. You give them a solution that's simple and easy to implement. That's how they're going to win with the content, but also with the programs that you develop to sell them with your content.
Right. Yeah. I like to tell people you create your core content. Let's say it's 7 different pieces, right? And you learn to tell those stories in 1,000 different ways. I got an email on Monday. I got a Monday morning email from a marketing guy I've been following for 30 years. And he had a phrase in that email that I learned from him 28 years ago. He is still hammering it because it's true. It's a principle. Now, he wove it in a different way and came at it from a different angle, but he made the same point. It's exactly what you're talking about is you need to have that foundation. Now, I share with my audience a lot. You may be familiar with him or not, Dave Ramsey. He's a financial guy in America, is on radio and books. He has 7 baby steps. Mm-hmm. Okay. He's talked about 7 baby steps in financial planning for decades on radio, in his books and seminars. 7 baby steps. I know what the steps are, but people keep coming back to him because they forget or they need clarity on 7 baby steps. And that's, I mean, he's become a multi-millionaire on 7 baby steps. And the thing is, when you're at that pivoting point that you're talking about, and you step into this new brand, Angela can help you create your 7 baby steps, your message that then you can tell 1,000 different ways and serve people who need what you have, right?
I actually limit my clients to 3 topics. That's all they get. Yeah. There's so much nuance to each of those topics. So,
well, yeah. And well, 7 baby steps would be one topic. It's how to get out of debt and build wealth, right? But yeah, because otherwise you get, well, as entrepreneurs, we're idea generating machines, right? We can create that. No. Simplicity, right? Clarify, simplify, and then multiply. And the cool thing is when you do it that way, those 3 things, you become known for those 3 things. People can remember 3. And then it's easier to build your platform, proclaim your message, and generate more profits by serving people.
Absolutely.
It's funny. It's not rocket science, what you and I do.
It seems like it is to people, but when they're trying to figure it out themselves.
You and I have a very unique gift. And I tell business owners all the time, it's being a business owner and trying to figure out marketing, branding, and all that. It's like being on the inside of an empty, like, Coca-Cola bottle, looking out that bottle, trying to read the label on that bottle, right? You're too close to it. You can't do it. Angela's an outside perspective. She can read the label. She can see your soul. She cracks open your soul, which is really cool. But she can see what's inside of you, probably like not many people can. And because of her background, her experience, all the different industries she's worked in, she'll be able to connect dots you'll never be able to connect. And it's not because you're dumb or stupid. It's just because that you're on the inside, right? And same with me. I mean, I'm great at what I do, but you get me outside of you don't know this, Angel. I'm only good at 4 things, right? Outside of that, I'm pretty mediocre at best. You put me in one of those mediocre things, I'm screaming for help, right? We all need help. We all need coaches. We need somebody who can take our brand. I talked to a lady earlier today. She was trying to grow her business. She did not have a clear message or a brand. And I told her, I said, time out. Stop spending money on all the stuff you're doing. Figure that out.
So true. I see that all the time, that people have taken all these programs that, develop out this mastermind, develop out Facebook ads, and they don't know what their core message is. They don't know who they are. They don't even know what they're trying to offer. But this shiny object of, well, you'll make $100,000 if you take this course, is just like, start doing that with your money, right? And throw it all around. But if you don't actually get the essence of what you're trying to do nailed down, and you can explain it over and over and over again the same way, and people go, oh, I get it, then you're just wasting money, you're wasting time. Just like you said, it's insane how people get sold on that stuff.
It is. And they're frustrated, but we won't talk about that's a whole nother podcast of the frustration things. No, we can get rid of all of that. It starts with message. And coming back to my marketing guy that I followed, right? Mm-hmm. Here's another principle. He's like, what matters in marketing really is what you say, more so than where you say it. Because LinkedIn works, Facebook works, TikTok works. I mean, they all work when you say the right thing. And everybody talks about targeting, and I gotta reach the right people, Angela. So my guy says, it's amazing how many people become the right people when you say the right thing. Say the right thing. Have a clear brand strategy that's compelling to your audience, so it captivates their attention and causes them to do business with you. Mm-hmm. Angela can help you do that. If you find yourself coming up to that pivot point, if you're wanting to do something more in life, something different, let me encourage you to reach out to Angela. Angela, how can somebody who's sitting there going, this is exciting, how do they find out more about you?
The best way I would actually suggest is joining my LinkedIn group, which is called the Unleashing Influence Community. And I'll give you the link for that afterwards.
Okay. I'll have that in the show notes, the Unleashing Influence Community on LinkedIn. Go there, and I bet it's a community of people who are all about this, and you're going to learn more about Angela. See if she stays around more than 90 days. I bet she does. Because that's longevity. You need to be there, and that's one of the things that builds credibility. So the Unleashing Influence Community on LinkedIn is the best place to find Angela Mulrooney, who is going to help you learn how to create your brand, how to take that brand, how to step into that next phase of life, whether it's a new business, a different business, or it may be revolutionizing your business like she did with her dental practice years ago. Okay, it's branding, it's strategy, and it's message clarity, all wrapped up in this nice little bow, and Angela can help you do that. So the Unleashing Influence Community on LinkedIn. I love it. Angela, thank you. This has been super fun.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it. Love
you're welcome. It's rare to talk to somebody who understands branding and is really fun to talk to. So I appreciate the time that you spent with me.
Thank you.